Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of the Team Lead Talks podcast. I am your host out of Alexandria, Virginia, Andrew Becker. On today's episode, my friend Jeremy Knauff, he is the CEO of Spartan Media. He helps people get featured in media so they can become recognized in your industry, attract more clients, and earn more money. Welcome, Jeremy. Good to see you, man.
Thanks, brother. Good to see you too.
All right, dude, let's jump right into this. Tell people at a high level who you are and how you got started here.
Yeah. So, you pretty much encapsulated it. I get people featured in the media so they can become a recognized authority in their industry, attract more clients, and earn more money. It's that third-party validation. Everybody gets out here on social media and they talk about how great they are. They talk about all the amazing things that they're doing, but that only goes so far. When you've got this third-party validation in the form of, articles, TV segments, speaking opportunities on stage, things like that, it really creates a different persona. It creates a different perception of you and your brand. And, it creates more trust for you, which helps you to bypass a lot of the bullshit that we have to go through as entrepreneurs. You're talking to somebody cold and you have to go through this dog and pony show when you're trying to, convince them to work with you. You don't have to do as much of that when they come to you already knowing that, you're the best of the best.
So what you do, Jeremy, is you almost celebritize people when, the sale kind of already happened or took place in their mind. So when they meet you, it's like this event versus like me having to sell you.
Yeah. That is to some degree an accurate way to describe it. But at the same time, I kind of hate that way of describing it. And the reason for that is there's a few people who try to do similar things and they kind of frame it that way. And everyone I've ever heard who describes it that way, that provides a service in some way similar to what I do, it's always the bullshit fluff. It's no real substance. Like there was this guy, we won't say his name. You probably haven't run into him, but he basically framed it as exactly that. And he would stage these basically fake events where he would come in and do this big photo shoot, and they would have like a stage opportunity to speak, and they would, shoot photos on stage and go through the whole thing and do like these fake red carpet photos and all that stuff. But it was just a bunch of people that wanted to look like fake celebrities.
Yeah.
And they would come in and go through that. So, for me, when I do it, it's about, really getting down to the foundational aspects of who you are and what value you bring by getting you out there and demonstrating your expertise in a way that brings value and impact to the world.
Very cool. So we'll edit out the part about me using that word.
No, never do that, man.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Cool, dude. Well, let's talk. I'd love to know like action, like tactical steps you take. But before we do that, dude, I want to learn just a little bit, like how did you get into this industry or this part? And just to clarify, is this only for real estate industry professionals or you do this for everyone?
Everyone. A majority of our clients are in the real estate space, which does make us a lot more effective at doing this for real estate professionals because we understand the industry at a very deep level. I mean, for example, when we're working with a client, we'll ghostwrite articles for them, for example. We'll get their insight on a particular topic and then we'll go write the article. But once we get to know you and kind of get a sense for not only your voice and how you communicate, but also your ideology on particular topics, right? Like certain tactics in the industry or what should or shouldn't happen in the industry, things like that. We get to a point pretty quickly just because we've been doing this for a long time with a lot of really high level folks that we understand the industry probably better than some of the professionals in the industry. So, I can't tell you the number of articles that we've written for clients where we didn't even bother presenting them with a topic. We just know it's a good topic. Maybe there's something trending about it in the news. We'll go and write a full article for them, send it off to them for their review, right? Make any edits you need to make, whether it's from a voice perspective or from a technical perspective. And 99% of the time, man, there are no edits. So like we actually understand the real estate side of the business at a very deep level. But I got into this in kind of a dumpster fire kind of way, to be honest with you.
Okay. Care to explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been involved in PR to some degree. I started my first marketing agency right after I got out of the Marine Corps. And I ran that successfully for, 10, 15 years. And then I got blindsided by a health crisis that almost killed me. And That was lots of fun. I spent about 2 years on my deathbed.
Oh my gosh.
Business withered away to nothing, and burned through pretty much everything we had saved just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And then we're at the end of the rope, and we still hadn't solved the health issue, but now there's no more money to continue any kind of treatments. There's no more money to support the family. I'm just at rock bottom at this point while still dealing with this health crisis. So I'm very much a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. And, I didn't really sit down and let's, map out this brilliant strategic plan. I just kind of jumped into action. And I started leveraging public relations to put myself back on the map. Because think about it, you're gone for 2 years from the marketing world.
Yeah.
You're no different than some rando on Fiverr at that point.
Right.
And so that wasn't a good look. And it definitely made getting new clients really difficult because, aside from being gone, I also had no current clients to cite, no current case studies, no nothing. So I started off writing a few articles on my own website, on our blog. I happen to be a very good writer. I enjoy it. I'm very fast at it, and it tends to engage people very well. So I wrote a few articles. Then I reached out to a very large podcast. At the time, we were heavily focused on SEO. So I reached out to a podcast and used one of the articles that I wrote as kind of the foundation for a pitch for me to come on the podcast as a guest and talk about that topic. That episode, and this was a very well-established, very popular podcast in the industry, that ended up being their most downloaded episode ever. And so I was like, all right, well, we're on to something here. And so I then pitched myself for a few other podcasts, and then same results there, right? Just massively downloaded episodes. So from there, I then turned around, took my articles, I took those podcast episodes and the results from all of that, and I pitched one of the top publications in the SEO industry for me to write a guest article there. They loved it. We did it. Turned out to be one of the top read articles that month. And, from there, I pitched a few more. Then I pitched myself writing for another publication in that industry. And, shortly after that, I started getting featured in Entrepreneur, Forbes, Inc., pretty much all the major media outlets that everyone wants to be in. And about a year after that, because, sometimes we kind of get in the trenches and we don't see what's right in front of us because we're so busy doing what we have to do. I didn't see the tremendous opportunity quite yet. But about a year after that, I was like, you know what? The impact that this created for me is something that everyone needs. Like, this is so incredibly powerful. I rose bigger and faster than I ever had, prior to that. And it was because of how I leveraged public relations. Like I had a very specific approach that I used to it.
Okay.
And so that was when we pivoted to focusing entirely on PR, peeled off all the other services. I just refer that stuff out to other people, connect prospects to other agencies for the other things. Now, all that we do is focus on PR with that basic framework with, of course, several improvements and refinements along the way. But basically, we now leverage that to turn people into a recognized authority in their industry.
Awesome, man. So it sounds like you know a little bit about messaging and how to articulate to get some people interested in what you do.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story, man. Glad to see that the health thing, you got through that and you're able to reestablish yourself in the PR world. Amazing stuff. And then you had that aha moment of like, hey, we're actually doing quite well on our own, getting my own, Jeremy out there. Why can't I just replicate this for others? So
Right.
let's get to that point now. So I want to work with you. Like, what does that look like? How does, the onboarding look? And then how, what's the strategy there behind it?
Yeah. So, the process is pretty straightforward. We have people reach out to us all the time who, they want to get that status so that they can not only grow their business, but also create more impact. So, we'll have a conversation with them, find out what their situation is, find out what their expertise is. And, I will say we do a bit deeper dive on our clients than most people do. In fact, we actually run background checks on everybody when we start working with them because I want to make sure they're legit, right? There's a lot of people who are bullshit artists out there. I know you've run into some. You and I have talked about a few in our circles.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we want to make sure we're not promoting any of those type of people, but also we do the background check because, let's be honest, people often don't tell the truth. And if there's something lurking in the background that we don't know about, that can blindside our client. So we want to know if there's anything that's going to potentially hurt them
Okay.
that we need to be prepared for.
Jeremy, specifically, like, are you talking? I'm just curious at this point about the background check. We talked about before. We were both kind of like in the military arena,
Yeah.
and I had to do like crazy background checks for myself. Is
Yeah.
this a
We're not
criminal
talking like,
background check or like?
we're not talking about like the background checks that we had for like a top secret security clearance or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. Okay.
Fairly standard background check that, any employer might conduct,
Okay.
looking at, potential legal matters, criminal matters,
Gotcha.
anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, all good,
I'm
man. It's
just
a
curious
great
around that.
question.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so, and then from there, if we decide to work together, then what we do is we get together and we'll sit down. Typically, it takes about an hour to really extract everything we need to pull out of their brain. And that's both from a technical perspective, right? What do they do? Who do they do it for? Why do they do it? But also kind of who they are and what they stand for and what their voice is, right? How do they communicate? Because we have to communicate in a way that is natural for them. So once we pulled that all together, then we go back to the lab, so to speak, and put together our plan. We have a pretty robust plan. We've got a process that we've built and refined over the years. And then we get back together once we've got that plan together and we go over it together, right? Because it's not just how we communicate. How we communicate has to align with them, right? It has to align with their beliefs, their views, has to align with how they want to be perceived. Right?
Almost at this point, Jeremy, you're like finding my voice, but to make you all comfortable enough to write on my behalf as an example.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And once we go through this process, like we've got really good at this over the years. And, I was telling you earlier that a lot of times, we may come up with a topic. Let's say we're ghostwriting an article for a client. We may come up with a topic without ever running it by the client. We just know it's great because of the research we've already done with them. We know who they are. We know what works for them. So we'll just write the article and it's perfect for them. They love it. It's in their voice. Like when we hand it to them for their review before we send it somewhere to be published, there's almost never any edits to it. Like they love it. It's in their voice. It communicates from a technical perspective properly, and it positions them the way that they want to be seen. And that comes from doing this for so long with so many people that we've really honed that process.
Cool. So the categories you mentioned, like writing articles, getting them published, and I'm guessing let's stick to real estate since this is a real estate podcast. Getting them on like what, Inman, Bigger Pockets, like the big ones, and then potential stage appearances and things like that. Do you also help? I'm also, this is just curious around like what this package involves around like getting them on podcasts or like social media content and clips and shorts and long form, or does it stop with like the first two?
Well, so it's a combination of things. So we don't generally create social media content for people, but we do have a framework in place where they can then create a bunch of content from the publicity that we create for them. And generally speaking, a single piece of publicity can usually be turned into a few dozen pieces of content. In fact, I just wrote an article for Inman, I think it was like last week, where we talk about creating a mountain of content out of one idea, right? So we kind of give that framework to our clients for them to execute. That's something we may probably create as kind of a side service at some point. It's just that's not in place right now. But yeah, I mean, ghostwriting articles, getting them quoted in other articles. Like, so in some cases, it may be an article written, with air quotes here, written by them, published somewhere. But in other cases, it may be a journalist is writing an article and they're cited in it as an expert on that topic. It might be a TV segment where they come on and they're interviewed on a particular topic. So in one of the mastermind groups you and I are in, Derek Carlson, I actually had him drive up here. He's a little bit further south of me, and he drove up here to Tampa. I think it was the day before Christmas or the day before Christmas Eve. He drove up here to be on a TV segment, and they were talking about the 50-year mortgage proposal that's been going around in the news, right?
That whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a disaster, but hey, whatever, it is what it is.
I haven't heard about it. Yeah, you probably know way more than I did. Everyone in America, I think, heard about that, but then it kind of just like went away. Is it coming back now?
I think it's going to materialize.
Okay.
Housing affordability is not going to go down significantly anytime soon, so they need to find other ways. I mean, that's why they've got this other proposal in the works now for letting people use their 401k to buy homes
I
without
saw that
taking a
too.
tax hit.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of things like that. But yeah, TV segments like that. We've also, and stages like you mentioned, but we also do some kind of outside the box opportunities from time to time as well. I don't know if you and I ever talked about this one before, but we had a client who I actually just had him on my live stream yesterday, Dr. David Phelps, who's also in family with us. He came to us several years ago, and we had worked together, I think, for like 5 or 6 years. And in that time, we've earned him probably thousands of pieces of publicity. But when he first came to us, he had nothing, right? He was within the circles that we travel in. Everybody knew him as this rock star. He's the smartest guy in the room, doesn't matter what room you're in. Everybody in our circles knew that, but outside, he was not recognized that way. So we got him a bunch of killer opportunities. And as his authority started to grow, that then created other opportunities for us. So one of the things that happened here in Florida, I think this was around 2021 or 2022, something like that. Governor DeSantis signed into law this new financial literacy curriculum. And this is something that was being implemented in all of our Florida schools. So when I found out about that, I reached out through my contacts at the DeSantis administration and at the Department of Education, and I got him seated on the working group to help the state of Florida develop that curriculum. So now for the rest of his life, he's the guy that helped Florida develop its financial literacy curriculum.
What an accolade. Yeah.
Yeah. Puts him in an entirely different category, man.
Yeah.
And then we did something with Johns Hopkins with him and a few other people after that, where most people don't know this, but in addition to the medical school, Johns Hopkins also has a business school, a master's level business program. And one of their big focuses is on this real estate program that they've got. So we had David out there speaking to the graduating class of their master's level real estate program. And, it was a really cool opportunity. He got to share some great insight, help these young students, really move forward in their career. And that really put a big feather in his cap because, they don't just ask anyone to come out for things like this.
Yeah.
Right? So these opportunities build on each other, and it kind of creates this snowball effect where the more impact that occurs, the more impact that starts being attracted to you. So
it builds that momentum up where you're eventually getting sought after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool, dude. Man, this is so interesting to me. I'd love to continue kind of offline talking to you about this. But if anyone listening now or, when the episode's on YouTube wants to reach out, like, how do you start this process with you? I'm sure, is there an application or can you share how they find you?
Yeah, man, I'm easy to find. No surprise there, right?
You should be, yeah, hopefully.
You would think so. But yeah, just go to spartanmedia.com. There's a contact form right on the site. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. But I'm on social media everywhere as well. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, you name it. I'm pretty much everywhere. So I'm an easy guy to get a hold of, but our website or social media, and just reach out from there.
Super cool, man. Well, Jeremy, I really appreciate your time and the knowledge you just dropped. Really cool stuff. Stick around for 1 second after this. I got to pick your brain about something.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good, bro.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. You too.